All right. We are back at the 2026 Republican Party of Texas convention in Houston, Texas. I'm joined by my old friend, Jonathan Covey. He's the policy director at Texas Values. Jonathan, welcome to convention. Welcome to Houston, right? You've got an agenda. You've got things that you're working on. What's the experience been here in 2026 so far?
Yeah, thanks, Destin. Appreciate being able to come on. It's been great. We've had a great experience so far.
Yeah.
It's been good talking with platform and legislative priority committee members on a bunch of different topics, especially one of the ones that means a lot to our organization at Texas Values, which is banning gambling in the state of Texas. Just really important to make sure that families aren't harmed, that students and young people don't fall under these addictive activities, and we're committed to continuing to work towards that. That's why we spend a lot of time in legislative priorities working to make sure that Texas closes all the loopholes for gambling in the state of Texas.
Yeah. So you and I worked together this week to make that happen. Of course, we launched TAPCA, which is our project to address the predatory gambling problem in Texas last year. And so this is kind of a newer space for us. Perhaps it could have fallen under government accountability because obviously there's been so much scandal and corruption, with different elements of gambling in Texas, right? But for the time being, this is a newer deal for us. Y'all have fought it for several years now, but this feels like an emerging thing, this push of other forms of predatory gambling in addition to the lottery stuff, which of course we'll get to. Can you just tell me how we got here? Why is this an issue that all of a sudden we're feeling like you and I both need to work to educate delegates why this should be a legislative priority? How did we get here?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, as you very well know, the Texas Constitution prohibits gambling in the state of Texas.
So what problem do we have, right?
Yeah, exactly. So the question is, what problem is there out there? Well, it's actually because the gambling interests out of state, out of California, other places, Nevada, are trying to push into Texas. Texas is one of the largest markets that they can foresee just making an incredible amount of money. And so we see not only the traditional gambling and casino resort type places, but also Las Vegas Sands, but also the sports betting alliances for sports betting apps trying to move into Texas as well.
Right.
And this has been a huge push over the last two legislative sessions.
Yeah, really the last 5 or 6 years.
Yeah, really the last 5 or 6 years. And they've spent just an incredible amount of money trying to make sure that the Texas House, Texas Senate passes legislation to open up the state of Texas so that they can open these gambling. So we find ourselves defeating those efforts.
Right.
And here we are now actually finding out that there are other things in the state of Texas that are going on, loopholes where they're starting to operate here despite the Texas legislature's work.
Yeah, so I think that's the funny thing to me, right, is we have this constitutional prohibition on gambling, but every Texan is impacted, touched, or knows somebody, or gambling is present in every Texan's life.
Right.
Despite this huge prohibition, right?
That's exactly
and so
right.
whether it's, the horse tracks or the 8-liners or the Class 2 gaming, there's all these different loopholes that are being exploited.
Right.
There's these new emerging technologies that haven't been regulated under the consistency of the law and stuff. So that's all been so intriguing. I will say, though, Jonathan, I'd be interested in your perspective on this too, right, is I felt like getting the Legislative Priorities Committee and the Platform Committee to entertain the idea of including this was a bit of a fight. But once the case is laid out for everybody, whether it's somebody on committee or a delegate or your neighbor or a family member across the kitchen table, once you explain what's really happening, immediately everybody's on board, right? So it's well, we don't need to address gambling. And then you're educated on or reminded even sometimes of what's happened with these different forms of gambling. And it becomes immediately of course this should be a priority.
Yes.
What was I thinking?
Exactly.
Are you finding that to be the case too, that it's kind of an easy sell to get people on board with our agenda?
No question. I will second the fact that it seemed like it was a little bit of a struggle on these committees, but the issue here is the messaging, and it is the information and making sure that people understand what the problem is. We worked really hard to try to get this message out, but it's interesting how if you haven't been inundated in this type of a world and you don't quite understand, it's easy to dismiss gambling as something that's not affecting you as much. But most people, they actually know folks that have been affected by this. If they may be in their own family, they may be their friends, and most people know more about gambling and the harms of it than they even realize. You and I kept hearing the term pari-mutual betting. People know a lot about sports horse racing as well. So I mean, yeah, this is really fundamentally a lack of informing people on this issue, and they come to really agree with you that this is just terribly addictive, terribly harmful for Texas families.
Let me ask you this. So do you feel that the language the Legislative Priorities Committee got accomplished and will be submitted to delegates for their support perhaps is strong enough? Like, if this becomes a legislative priority of the Republican Party of Texas, is it clear enough to instruct lawmakers what to do next as it relates to the gambling problem?
Yes, and you and I worked on this. You were on the Legislative Priorities Committee and really helped lead this issue, and I'm thankful for the work that you guys do here and just really leading up on this issue here in the state of Texas. But yes, I feel like that the language addresses that. It addresses not only the traditional forms, the corrupt Texas lottery that has to be eliminated here in the state of Texas, but also the loopholes, the predatory gambling, the prediction markets, the other things that are operating currently and are doing so under the guise of a federal derivatives market, but are actually just another form or a loophole of gambling in the state of Texas.
That's right. Yeah, so lawmakers have their marching orders regardless. I'm not sure. We'll see. Yeah. We've got a big hill to climb. Like I said, the good news for you and I as advocates, right, is that the more people are reminded and informed about the scandal and the corruption and everything that comes, all the social and economic harms, the harms to family, it's an easy sell. You just need to remind them. And so the question will be, will enough people be informed and reminded of the problems facing Texas as a result of this harmful industry before our vote, which will happen tomorrow? So everybody stay tuned. Perhaps even by the timing, the airing of this video, we will know. But I think it snuck in right there, 15 out of 15. It was the last one in. We'll see if it becomes a top 8. Jonathan, tell me just real quick a little bit about where folks can find information about Texas Values, and then one or two other things that you guys are working on here this week in Houston.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Destin. We're working on making sure that, so first of all, you can go to txvalues.org, check out the information we have on a bunch of different topics.
Sure.
But we're working this week on also making sure that the law is fulfilled. As you know, we played a significant role in making sure the SB 10, the 10 Commandments law, was passed and was implemented in the state of Texas. And so we're really about making sure that government entities, school districts, municipalities, they implement the law, existing laws like Senate Bill 10, and they don't delay them, they don't obstruct them. This is really a form of governmental delay and overreach, and that's where it's in the legislative priority on ending government overreach. So we're really going to be pushing that one. We're also we continue to work on medical conscience protections and protecting doctors and other license holders from being interfered with government using leftist ideology as a weapon against license holders. Really important as well, and we're going to work on that in the Texas legislature. That's
another space, Jonathan, where we can be working together, right? Because we're really, really aggressively trying to rein in and defund woke and weaponized government. And a lot of times, what does weaponized government look like? Well, it looks like persecution of people of faith, people that are trying to honor their conscience and their values. I know that you guys have done some excellent work in that regard, and that's obviously not a role of government. Government has no business weaponizing its infrastructure against people of faith. And so thank you for your work on that. Was there another one you wanted to add to the list too?
No, those are the big ones. And great. Getting to protect Texas kids, of course, as well, very important. But yeah, we've just been really grateful to be able to work with you guys on this, and it was an excellent committee. I feel like we're coming out with some really solid priorities. So that's gonna
now we go to the floor. We'll see what happens next. Right. Anything parting words maybe for delegates here at convention or for the folks watching at home?
Yeah, I think just continue to stay involved, continue to pray for our leadership, and make sure that we continue to push conservative values in the state of Texas. We're going to continue to make a difference for our faith, family, and freedom.
Awesome. Everybody, once again, this has been Jonathan Covey with us. He is the policy director at Texas Values. We're at the 2026 Republican Party of Texas Convention here in Houston. Things are going really well. We'll have more content for you coming up really quick. Thanks for tuning in.